Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. Today I will be doing a video based off of the blog post I just published today, the 25th of August 2025, talking about chapter 2 of this beyond absolute, like, bottom of the toilet, bottom of the barrel garbage book by the late fraud Dr. Beatrice Sparks, who was only pretending to be a PhD and a psychologist. This is, it's even, I think it might even be worse than Almost Lost, which that's pretty hard to go below that bottom of the toilet offering. But anyway, like, chapter 2 is her first ever male character. Mark, it's a story about, like, depression, but, like, with her, it's like have to check off every single box possible. She actually, like, credit where credit is due, even grudgingly, she started off with, like, a fairly, like, believable, like, strong scenario for explaining why Mark would be depressed and start thinking of, God forbid, unaliving himself. The parents are, well, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, and I'm just doing a little bit of a brief setup why she started with a halfway believable, like, realistic scenario for a teen boy or teenage anyone. The parents are fighting, the mother is really depressed, father starts beating mother, mommy goes away to the loony bin, mommy leaves daddy. Kids, I use the words mommy and daddy sarcastically about her books because that's how the characters act. Oh, my precious mama, precious mommy, mama and dada. That's really how they talk. They're like overgrown babies constantly gassing on about, oh, I love my mommy and my dada, I can't live without mama. But anyway, I hate that part of her books. And so, yeah, that yanked back and forth between, like, father and the grandparents, and that the mother in and out of the hospital and stuff like that, and finally moving away to New York, away from all of his friends and familiar surroundings and stuff. That's a pretty strong scenario, I would say, like, in a much better writer's hands for establishing why, someone would be depressed and, the unaliving thoughts. But no, she had to just what I don't know what the opposite of Gilda Lily is, like, dreck up the toilet or something like that. So she just, like, checks off so many boxes. She stuffs in every freaking thing but the kitchen sink, like, SA, like, drugs, like, adults having inappropriate relationships with teenagers, like, running away, just weirdos on the road. Like, I'll get to all of this, and there was so much in this crappy chapter. I'll have to get to more of it when I do a future video talking about, like, general things. That's like, why none of these scenarios in any of the chapters are realistic. So anyway, let's just start getting down with it. I titled the blog post an over-the-top morality play with everything but the kitchen sink. And so chapter 2 of Dr. Fraud's bomb of a 1978 release, Voices, like, it really was, like, skewered in the press of the few reviews that got served her right. And so it's subtitled The Lure of, Unaliving Yourself. Like, YouTube really doesn't like people using the word for that, but you all know what the word is, and stars her first ever male character, Mark. As in so many of her other stories, Mark's problems too are blamed on his parents divorcing. Oh, the automatic end of the world. Mommies and daddies should never get divorced because it F's up their kids irreparably. Like, whoever heard of a family having a good relationship after a divorce? Nope, always sends them straight down into hell. Dr. Fraud couldn't resist stuffing in as many issues as she could tick off. As a result, Mark's story is an over-the-top, everything but the kitchen sink slog. Like, it was really difficult to choke this crap down. It was not a page-turner. And with a narrator who sounds absolutely nothing like a real teen boy. And just wait until I get to the future video, like, when he can't even, like, use any word for his phallus, even a babyish euphemism. Have you ever heard of a teen boy who's so grossed out by his own male member he thinks it's dirty and gross and shameful? Like, men, tell me in the comments down below. Seriously, like, nothing about this reads like a real boy or a young man. Mark used to have a very happy, fun, exciting life, like when he made a home movie of The Christmas Story with his buddies and his little sister and the dad-gummed donkey we borrowed from someone just wouldn't go. Like, I burst out laughing at that line. I had read it in some views on, like, Amazon and Goodreads saying, oh, I'm sorry, no teenager in the 20th century was saying the dad-gummed donkey just wouldn't move. Like, even my great-grandparents didn't use that word. It's like an old-timey geezer from the 19th century. He also loved the girls shaking their little booties. Yeah, boo. She actually spells it booties, not booties, because Dr. Fraud loved randomly putting words in quotes and couldn't spell. Like, where was her editor for this crap? Like, New York Times Books published this. They're not really a hack publishing house. Everything changes when Mommykins becomes so depressed she can't function, and Daddykins, like the husbands in antidepressant ads of this era, you've probably seen them around in, a number of like websites and blog posts and such like that around Pinterest, is really upset. She's no longer doing housework. Instead of expressing any concern for his wife's mental health, oh no, my wife isn't cooking breakfast and the bacon is burnt, and how can I wash dishes? I'm a man. Wifey is supposed to be doing the vacuuming. Yay, I got her on Valium. Now she can cook breakfast again and do all the housework, and I don't have to worry. Wifey is back knowing her little place. And they even have that stupid ad. This man, he dares to claim, oh, I suffered from menstrual cramps because my wife wasn't the perfect wifey I married, and she was actually not like smiling and keeping sweet. But anyway, I'm getting off on an eddy. So Mark's father eventually starts beating his wife and gets angry at Mark too for always messing up housework when he tries to help, like mixing red socks with Daddy's white boxers, which predictably turns them pink. And it's like so many times throughout this chapter, like the father is very, an unwritten homophobic character. Oh no, I'm no HOMO. I'm not wearing pink. I'm a macho man. Daddy even tells Mark Mommykins is a failure even in bed. Man, what a grosser. Like, it's just a 60-year-old Mormon trying to sound like a hip, like hardcore street kid. Like, oh, what a grosser. Like, and she never sounds like a believable adolescent. This is the first of many times Mark expresses moral revulsion and disgust towards sex. And I really suspect he's, maybe she didn't intend it that way, like, but, subconsciously, it really seems like she's trying to make him an unwritten, like, gay character. Like, oh, gross, sex with women, ew, but, oh, I'm going to have sex with a man later on, and other men are hitting me up for sex. Mommy, who had always been the neatest artist in the world, she frequently uses the word neat in this chapter. Again, like, was that really a thing that teenagers were doing in the 70s? That's neat. The neatest little sister ever. Neatykins. And so anyway, Mommy starts painting pictures that make Mark sick because they're so depressing and macabre. Unlike though, religious scenes or landscapes or portraits. Nope. Oh, I'm so upset and depressed. She's painting, like, oh, she's in hell and people look weird and oh no, it's just not sweet and delightsome. He starts bawling like a baby, until I felt like dry rocks were coming out of my eyes, and the insides were like they'd been worked over by 6 mix masters filled with broken glass. Like, and remember, this is supposed to be an interview. Who the F talks like this in an actual real life interview? Daddy finally dumps Mark and little sister Katie on their grandparents in Dallas, which makes Mark really happy. He can finally do the things he loves doing and not be berated by Daddy as a sissy for his total disinterest in stereotypically male activities like sports. Again, it seems like an unwritten gay character and all but name. Mommy is sent to a nut house. Mark's depression worsens when Daddy takes him back home, but not to worry, his grandparents come to the rescue and let him and Katie live by them again. Mark also loves that Grandma and Grandpa take them to church and let them pray and make them read the Bible, unlike Mommy and Daddy, who are atheists. Oh, a cardinal sin at Dr. Fraud world. Dr. Fraud laughably attributes their atheism to the fact that they had lived in New York and Daddy was in advertising. Like, I'm not even gonna go there. Like, oh, big cities, you must be an atheist, and if you work really hard and care about your business, oh, you can't possibly believe in God or want to go to your house of worship or pray on your own time. Nope, you've got to be an atheist, sinful, evil big city. Like Lawrence, red flag dripping Lawrence, in Kim Empty Inside, Mark too takes this as a personal affront and psychological wound. And yet again, another scenario in her books that it's not believable. Like, who cares? After Mommykins gets out of the loony bin, she divorces Daddy, rightly so. He was beating her. Since this is Beatrice Sparks' world, of course their divorce profoundly messes Mark up. 4 more years pass, and we finally get an age for Mark. I was wondering, how old is this kid supposed to be? We're told he starts doing drugs in his 2nd year of junior high, which, in my frame of reference, that would be 8th grade, like your 2nd and final year of junior high. And on the next page, he says he was 15 then. Like, what? Earth to Dr. Fraud, junior high had widely become grades 7 through 8 by the 1970s, not 7 through 9. And even if we're supposed to believe this is one of the holdout, like old school models of junior high that did go from 7 to 9, his second year of junior high would still be 8th grade. And most kids in the 8th grade, they're like ages 13 to 14, not 15. So what is like, were people in Utah where she was living with like grades 8 to 10 or something? And it happened to Nancy. Nancy is like still in junior high at the age of 16. Like, I really want to know what kind of junior highs like she was like drawn from. Like, this is never in my experience have I ever heard of kids of 15 and 16 being in junior high. Mark decides to quit dope and instead finds religion. Being a good little Peter Priesthood, he rails against anything not 1,000,000% G-rated and cops a morally superior attitude to his parents for crude language, like knowing her that could be anything. He's constantly patting himself on the back. Oh, I don't use gross, nasty, vulgar language. I only use the worst word he uses is, the stronger word for crap that starts with the letter S. Like, oh, I don't use F-bombs or anything else. I'm Peter Pure. And so he is railing against his parents for leaving cigarettes, alcohol, and sex books around for him and Katie. Like, wow. Like, she just loved these over-the-top scenarios. And taking him and Katie to PG movies. Oh, PG. Oh, perish the thought. And anything else they wanted to see. Like, this is just, like, cartoonish, like, parents. Like, they're just like not even supposed to be realistic. Oh, they're just dens of sin, a den of snakes and vipers. Oh, they're just leading them to rack and ruin, exposing them to sex books and letting them smoke cigarettes. Like, and none of this adds up. It's totally inconsistent the way she portrays the parents. Mark is upset. Daddy decides to move them back to New York, and that Mommy won't be joining them even though they're divorced. He whines that he needs his precious, precious, precious mama-kins to make cookies, cuddle him, and be home all day doing housework. Like, oh, wow. Most teens would be thrilled to leave East Podunk and live in a big city and don't want their damn mothers constantly hovering in the background and treating them like overgrown babies. Like, and then later on in the chapter, he's, by the side of the road hitchhiking. He thinks he's going to, perish of like thirst and dehydration and weakness and stuff. Oh, I need my mama. Oh, I'm such a sissy. I'm just a silly little butt. He calls himself a butt all the time. I need my mama. I shouldn't need my mama, but I want my mama. I'm 15. Like, she was a terrible, terrible writer, and the Mommykins worship. She worked it into every single story. Mark rails against the evils of New York City, like foul language, again without actually like defining what she means by that, and classmates having casual sex, like that thing most teenagers in the modern era do. Like, I never had sex as a teen, but I realized that made me a strange minority. Like, and I don't cop a morally superior attitude to people who choose differently than I do. His poor, precious Peter Priesthood stomach, oh no, is turned when a hot chick he has a crush on asks a guy to come over for a hookup. Darling sheltered Markykins thought only ugly women were into casual sex. I'm not even going to bother trying to unpack that, like, nuclear level misogyny. He soon gets back on drugs, and his problems become even worse when an older woman, Alicia, puts the moves on him in the laundry room of their, in the shared, cellar of their apartment. He agrees to have sex with her back in her apartment, but feels filthy, disgusted, and degraded afterwards. Alicia later gives him $50, which he uses to buy more dope. And, like, again, even when he's talking about having sex, he cannot use a word for his phallus, like the body part she was interested in. My, ellipsis, my, ellipsis, my, ellipsis, ellipsis, well, ellipsis. Dude, he can't even, like, use a baby euphemism like wee-wee or pee-pee. Like, what? Like, men, teenage boys, they're proud of that body part. They don't skirt around using any kind of word for it. Mark soon starts going out with Sandy and lies that he's sworn to be a virgin till marriage because of his religion. Because, yes, starting off a relationship with a lie about whether or not you've already had sex, that's a great idea. Sandy's parents have been divorced multiple times, and Sandy feels illegitimate because her mother is cohabiting with a boyfriend. Like, seriously? Earth to Dr. Fraud, this book is set in the 1970s, not the Victorian era. Like, a lot of people in that era, they were starting to, like, shack up outside of marriage. Like, almost no one really cared under the age of, 40 by that point. Like, people just, they have sex outside of marriage and they frequently live together as a trial run. It's not, oh, damaging, illegitimate. Oh no, you had sex one moment before marriage and let a man enter your boudoir you didn't want to marry, and you live together like a shameless harlot. Dr. Fraud lays on even more hyperbolic drama when Sandy says she was regularly essayed by one of her mother's former boyfriends as a preteen. Gotta load that kitchen sink up. Mark finally tells Daddykins about Alicia, and Daddykins laughs and congratulates him. Soon afterwards, he gives Katie drugs, but quickly regrets it and decides to run away. He leaves Katie a note begging her not to use drugs or have sex. Oh no, sex is just gross and dirty. It'll just mess you up. Vulgar. No, 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 no. Be a virgin forever. Mark takes all of Daddy's money from his wallet and hitches rides with truckers. Like Sammy in the Rancid Almost Lost, he also rides with the guy who wants to molest him and escapes at the first stop. Along the way, he also stays by some Hare Krishnas, and he's eventually dropped off in Albuquerque, even though his mommy lives in Texas. Mark gets knocked over by a car he tries to hitch a ride with. He sees a husband, wife, and some kids, and he runs after them, and they start speeding up so he won't get in the car with him. He looks weird or something to them, or they don't want to pick up hitchhikers, and he grabs the back, and he's knocked over in the road, and he's left injured, on the road. He falls unconscious after trying to slit his wrist with a rusty beer can and growling, "I whoop you," in desperate pleas to be loved in the dirt with a stick. I'm going to get into that more in the future general summary video, but if you're really sick and injured, are you really having the presence of mind to pick up a damn stick and write, "Please love me, somebody love me, I want to be wubbed," in the road, in the dirt? None of this makes freaking sense. He wakes up in a clinic, the exact kind of podunk clinic he imagined it would be, and the doctor takes him to a bus station and buys him a ticket to Mommykins. Oh, that's nice of the doctor. Would that really happen even back in the 70s? In Fort Worth, Mommykins and her new hubby George lovingly take in Mark and tell everyone the good news, and no one is all angry, "How dare you run away?" They just assumed, oh, he ran back to his mama. He also visits his grandparents. One day, Mark takes Mommy's car keys and cruises around in her new Rabbit, pretending it's his car. The fun ends when he picks up a preteen boy prostitute about 10 or 11, who tries to solicit him. Mark wants to take him to a church or a drug clinic, but he jumps out of the car. The cops hang up mid-sentence when Mark calls to report the boy. They said they'll, keep an eye out for him, but then they, hang up later in the call. He doesn't think they'll take anything seriously. Despite being enrolled in a new school, Mommykins gets the books for him. Mark decides to split back to Daddy, not even telling Mommy what he's doing, with no description of how exactly he travels there. That's kind of a big thing to leave out of this alleged interview and story about the Depression. Conveniently, Alicia has left, just like in Almost Lost. Oh, by the time Sammy comes back to town, all the members of the Harpoon Gang, they've been switched to an alternative school by the dandiest dude in all dudedom, the new principal. So he conveniently doesn't have to deal with those repercussions and fallouts of people he was dreading having to deal with again. He discovers Sandy is using drugs again, but doesn't join her. Mark begs to take college classes, but the vice principal and counselor fail to follow through. He also becomes the target of homophobic bullying after suggesting he tutor school sports star Luke in exchange for athletic coaching. Why the hell would anyone think that implied wanting sex? I mean, that's kind of a weird thing. Oh, I'll give you academic tutoring, not just regular tutoring. No, academic tutoring or scholastic tutoring for 3 hours in exchange for you giving me some sports tutoring, athletic tutoring for 3 hours. That's kind of a weird thing to approach anyone with, particularly when you don't know them. But they would just say wow, well, you're a loser, you don't like sports, you're a bad athlete, you're a nerd, you like school, oh, how dare you approach our school star and insult his intelligence. But why would you think that's a homophobic? I'm totally not following the thought process at all. Mark also thinks Luke, oh, he's just going to be a dumb dock worker like his dad. One of many times throughout her books, Dr. Fraud throws shade on the poor and working class. Oh, poor people and working class people, they just can't help turning to crime and getting divorced and doing drugs, unlike those nice, white, and delightsome bourgeoisie in suburbia. Daddy continues blowing off Mark's cries for help, and he even cares less. Oh, he just has the flu and he's staying in bed for 3 days. I'm not gonna look into that or investigate. I'm just gonna keep being a cartoon cardboard cutout of this over-the-top cartoonish caricature of a dad who just does not care at all. and Mark goes back to drugs and starts planning an unaliving attempt. When he tells Sandy about his problems and that he's thinking of unaliving himself, she laughs and tells the whole school, like, again, yet more over the top hyperbole. Like, I cannot imagine like, all of these scenarios happening to the same person. Like, many of them have happened, unfortunately, but to the same person, particularly in this short time frame. Like, I mean, obviously it is BS, but definitely she wasn't even trying to make her story sound like believable, like it happened to real people. Mark becomes friends with janitor Carlos in the apartment at the school, whom he eventually starts having sex with. Carlos is the only friend he has, the only person who really makes him feel, like good about himself and he can trust. Then Carlos splits, and a girl in the building offs herself. Daddy rants about how disgusting that was and how it disgraced her family. What is this? Like the 1870s? Like, seriously, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure by that point in American history, like shortly before I was born, it was no longer a crime to like unalive yourself or like attempt to, like, they wouldn't like haul you off to jail, or like your family wouldn't feel shame about it, or at least not in the US. Mark becomes friends with Joni, which upsets Daddy because Joni is African American. Oh no, being from Texas, he has a problem with that. Like, more stereotypes. It's a relief to Mark when Joni falls for Joe, since they're both the same race, which would lessen the hassle. And this was like before, a few years before the Mormon church, like finally, their prophet had a convenient revelation from God saying, oh, it's not cool to be racist. You should give your precious priesthood to black men, but of course denied to women of all race because women are inferior to men. And this was conveniently right around the time they were very threatened with losing federal funding because they were like being institutionally racist. So that was such a convenient revelation from the prophet, like they all are. Daddykins yet again dismisses Mark's serious concerns and laughs when he says he's thinking about unaliving himself. This overly long chapter finally ends. It was seemed like it was 100 pages or something. And so it ends with Mark delivering a lecture, sounding like come from a 60-year-old Mormon, about how parents just don't understand their children's cries for help or youth today, and how divorce causes so many problems. So kids from broken homes, they're terrible. Mommies and daddies should never divorce kids. He also repeats, this is unreal, a 4-paragraph Gerald Ford quote about National Family Week. This isn't how anyone talks in a real interview. Like, who the F is just, all of a sudden just like, I'm just gonna bust out this thing like President Ford was talking about, like verbatim and perfectly, like out of nowhere. Yet another clue. This is complete fiction, seriously. Dr. Fraud never created a character who sounded like anything but an over-the-hill, ultra-conservative, holier-than-thou Mormon. She totally failed at creating characters who talk, act, and think like real teens outside of the mortar. It's bad. I do not recommend this book to anyone. I only read her crap to take one from the team, and I'm surprised this video is like clocked in at only, like 23 minutes. I thought it was going to be like 35 minutes because the blog post is almost 1,400 words. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching all the way to the end. Like, let me know in the comments your experience with literary fraud or Dr. Fraud in general. Have you ever had the misfortune of reading this garbage book? What is your own experience with depression? Are you looking forward to my other books in this my other videos in this mini series, or just like general thoughts about that? And it really does mean a lot to me when I see comments. And I know I'm in arrears getting back to comments, been busy with my writing and editing the last few months. But anyway, I do really appreciate seeing comments and such. And so see you guys again later. Thanks for watching. Bye.